the refresh rate and the getting new ads live takes forever. We're talking weeks. It should not be taking weeks to get new ads live. There's a bottleneck with how long it takes for new campaign ideas to get strategized, then designed and implemented, and then approved from the client, and then ultimately going live. Sometimes it can take 1 to 2 weeks from when they see the data, like, oh, these ads are fatiguing, to actually getting new ads live. That could be weeks, and that should not happen. So that's the biggest problem, is the bottleneck of refreshing campaigns. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Marketing Monday with Laurel and Joel. Happy to have you here. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying these episodes, these interviews, these jam style podcasts that we've been doing. I have a lot of fun doing them. I hope Laurel has a lot of fun doing them as well. She usually gives me good feedback. She says she likes it, but who knows? Well, welcome to today's Marketing Monday. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. A few episodes ago, I interviewed Laurel and gave her some new ideas and concepts for ads. And so today I asked her to flip the script. I asked her to interview me. So you guys can start to kind of see how to break some of these things down, how to extract new angles, new ideas. Maybe what we go through here today will inspire you to come up with some new ideas for yourself and some new content, some new ads. Who knows? It's going to be raw. It's going to be unfiltered, unedited, uncut. So let's see how this goes. Laurel, how we doing?
Oh, we are doing all right. This is going to be so much fun, because this is actually probably my favorite part that I do for my own clients. So it's always interesting, because like I always tell people, especially like when you're doing something like what I do, like writing copy for other people, one of the things I find is you can give them the most in-depth intake form, but you're always going to get the best answers when you actually interview them on video. And so I always get the best material, even though like my intake form is very long. I always get the best whenever I do something like this.
You always get more when you're in flow of conversation. You know, there's more that can be extracted when you're chatting with someone versus just filling out a form. So they both have their purposes, but I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you. So you are going to interview me, and maybe we'll come up with some new concepts for what I'm doing with ads automation and Inspired. So I'm going to take a seat here and turn it over to you. So let's rock and roll. You're in the driver's seat.
Yeah. So let's actually get down to like the problems, right? Like one of the main things that I find when writing copy is a lot of times people kind of give me cop out answers when it comes to the question, what problem do you actually solve? And so that's one of the first questions that I love to get out of the way. And I know you and I talked about this a lot, but usually that's like the foundation, right? Because like if we don't know the foundation, nothing else that we're going to talk about is going to be as strong. So that's always how I started out. So Joel, tell me 3 or 5 of the main problems that only your ICA would have.
Cool. My ideal customer is a meta ads agency managing at least 5 clients. The problem that they run into is that they need to constantly refresh their ads and fix campaigns. And every time that they do it, it is an all hands on deck situation. So if a client's campaign starts to fail or fatigue or whatever, either the client sends them an email saying, hey, what's going on? And now they have to go and launch new ads, or they're doing it on a regular basis, which they should be doing anyway. The problem is that, whether they have a client success manager or whether they have an account manager or a media buying team, it's going to fall on one or more of those team members to start to drive that ship of coming up with new creatives. So for instance, I was on a sales call or a discovery call with somebody last week, and his situation was, okay, we have this really, really great account manager, and we have a client that the ads are doing fine, but I know, he's talking as the owner, he goes, I know those ads need to be refreshed more frequently, because while they're getting good results, I know they could be a lot better, but my account manager is spending 20 to 30 hours per week just on this one client account. And the refresh rate and the, getting new ads live takes forever. We're talking weeks. Like, it should not be taking weeks to get new ads live. So there's a there's a bottleneck with how long it takes for new campaign ideas to get strategized, then designed and implemented, and then approved from the client, and then ultimately going live. Sometimes it can take 1 to 2 weeks from when they see the data, like, oh, these ads are fatiguing and it's time for new creatives, to actually getting new ads live. That could be weeks, and that should not happen. So that's the biggest problem, is the bottleneck of refreshing campaigns. And so what that ends up happening is that business owner cannot take on more clients, because in order for them to take on more clients, they got to hire more account managers, and it just becomes a very inefficient system. So what we do is we solve that, where we build their systems custom built to their team, to their clients, so they're never waiting on a new refresh of creatives. We can come up with totally new strategies, totally new ideas, totally new campaigns, totally new, images. Very soon we will have the ability to do videos. So we are shortening that time to live cycle from weeks to, say, minutes. And you and I both know, with Facebook ads, and Andromeda's update is they need volume. And so this has become a very, very, substantial bottleneck for these agencies.
So let's actually dig a little bit deeper into that, right? Like you said that the time span is getting it, they're not delivering in the time frame that they want to be delivered. So let's actually dig into that, because like what I want to do is I want that other person on the other end reading this ad to really feel the pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how are the people who are running the agencies, how are they themselves like trying to solve that problem, and where are they getting stuck, right? Like why is it taking weeks? Why is it taking so long? Like what are they doing that's just not clicking?
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple of solutions that they're trying to implement. Number one, maybe they think it's some sort of like Asana workflow. Okay, it's like, oh, I need to build in some sort of custom project management workflow, and of course that'll help, right? And that they probably should have something like that, but they think that the solution is some sort of great like SOP process, and that will help to a certain extent, but it still is going to require management unless you put a dedicated person on the project management side, and their whole responsibility is to make sure things are moving. Totally fine. That's the old way of doing things, and for large agencies, maybe that is still necessary, but that's one potential solution. The next potential solution is they hire more team members, and that's just scaling complexity, because every new team member has to be trained. They're not going to produce the exact same output that all the other, account managers or media buyers will produce. And so that just adds a lot of complexity and doesn't really add profitability to the system. It's like, if I want to scale more revenue, then I just need to, for every 10 client accounts, I need to have another media buyer. And that becomes a very, very complex system. The third solution that they are trying is they're trying to piece together their own AI solution, right? So they've signed up for 4 or 5 different AI tools. They use Claude for writing their copy. They use Midjourney, or they use any number of different AI image generators. And then they'll use ChatGPT, and they'll use Canva, right? And so they just have this duct tape solution together, where they think that they're actually going to be doing it, but they're still babysitting it. It's not really a cohesive system. And then the fourth thing that they are trying to do is they are trying to outsource all of their creatives to some team overseas in the Philippines or somewhere else. And they still need a lot of babysitting, right? And so nothing is happening unless they are given directives, they are given orders. And so the bottleneck still falls on whoever is giving those orders. If it's you, the agency owner, or if it's a project manager, or if it's the media buyer, there's still that bottleneck of constantly feeding those orders back and forth, and it doesn't work, right? All of those will work to a certain extent, but you're still not solving the root problem, which is eliminating the bottleneck entirely.
So, okay, I love that. So I'm going to take it to another place. So what would you say is the magic number of creatives that an agency should be putting out for each individual client?
Well, it's going to depend on their ad spend. So what they should at the bare minimum, I would say at least, you know, 10 new ads per week. Like, because there are some agencies that need approval from the clients. Like before, they can publish anything, the client has to do an approval process. So there's a whole other system that has to go into that, which we solve, right? So they might be able to get those ads created. Now they need to get them approved. And so in our system, we can have an approval process where you just generate a link and the client can review it. But anyway, that wasn't your question. But that does bring up another problem in the workflow of agencies. So, I mean, they should be at the bare minimum, depending on their ad spend, at least 5 to 10 new ads per week ready to be launched. Maybe 2 or 3 completely new strategic directions, and the rest should be refreshes on what's already working and just kind of keep in maintenance mode, right? Of keeping those things live, trying to squeeze out a couple of extra percentage points, et cetera, et cetera. But they should be doing 5 to 10 of those a week, at bare minimum per client, especially with Andromeda. So yeah, that's what they should be doing.
So I'm assuming that you created your software because you were doing all of this manually and likely with that duct tape solution, right?
Yeah.
Walk me through the time frame that you found it actually took you by the time that you wrote copy in Claude, you produced, images in Nano Banana or whatever you were using. Kind of walk me through the before, what you were doing and what that duct tape system looked like, and how long it was actually taking you to do those 5 to 10 creatives.
Yeah. So I would go into ChatGPT. This is probably just over a year ago when ChatGPT started to finally produce some level of image quality that was acceptable for ads. The problem was, for the longest time, these LLMs and these AI models, they could produce images and the images look great. But as you know, most of our images and most of our ads have text overlay on them. And they just, for whatever reason, these smart models couldn't get text right. About a year ago, ChatGPT finally came out with some, a high level of accuracy where it was actually worth it to get some images from them. So I'd go into ChatGPT and I'd say, hey, create me an ad, here's the angle, et cetera, et cetera. I would chat with it. And it's like, I want an ad that does this. I want an ad that does that. And so every single time I would do that, it would take like 60 seconds for it to come up with, sometimes longer, 60 seconds to come up with one iteration of the image. And it's not always going to be right. I would say it like 80% of the time I would need to make some modifications. Either the strategic angle was just horrible, it was ugly, but me going back and forth with ChatGPT just to come up with one great ad image could have taken me 15 to 20 minutes. And that's if I like really knew how to prompt it correctly. I had great ideas, the whole 9 yards. Then I would go into Claude and I'd say, okay, great. Here's my image. Write some copy for it based on some structures and frameworks that I had in the past. Claude would come up with some ad angles. I'd pick that. And then I would have to go and download the image from ChatGPT, throw it into a folder, then take the copy, put it into a Google Doc, and start to mishmash it together. So let's just assume that I got an ad that I actually wanted to run. Well, then I'd have to go into Ads Manager, and I would log into Ads Manager, go through the whole campaign setup, even if it's in an existing campaign. So I'd click on the campaign, create a new ad set, hit all my settings, go to the ad, then, go through all the steps that are required to create that new ad. It's like, okay, great. Now go, upload the image. So I drag and drop the image in there. And then there's like 15 other steps. It's like, here are all these different functionalities that I want to turn on for you. I had to uncheck every single one of those. By the time that I got through all of that, I probably had 30 or 40 mouse clicks just to get the ad and the body copy transferred over from whatever I created on my Google Doc and set up all of the proper tracking parameters. So that might be another, when I get efficient at it, 10 to 15 minutes of just uploading the ad, right? And then I'd click publish. So, all in all, I mean, it was a very, very cumbersome process just for one ad. Okay. So that takes 30 to 45 minutes for me to create that one ad. Now, could I get more efficient at that and batch create some different angles? Yeah. Well, then that's going to extend to probably an hour to an hour and a half of me creating maybe 3 different ads, 3 different ad angles. And the big bottleneck was always taking it from one AI tool, transferring it over to another, having them talk to each other. It's like, I have this strategy, match the image, et cetera, and downloading that, heading into Ads Manager, uploading all that stuff into the campaign, and then finally clicking publish. And it was very, very cumbersome. Now, that was me just for one campaign. Imagine that you do that now across 5 clients, 10 clients, 15 clients, however many clients. You can just, that takes forever. That's why you have a dedicated account manager to push all of those buttons. And that's typically why you have a different strategist who is coming up with all those ideas. That's why you will typically have a designer who will take that information and now come up with those creative designs. We are past those days now. Like, we do not need to integrate all of those layers just to get an ad live. And that is why I built that system, is because it takes far too long to get all of those things live. And for an agency owner, that adds so much stress, so much management, and so much delay into getting results for your clients.
I love this because this is like a great segue into the last part of this interview. And I hope that people are paying attention in the way that I'm interviewing you and how I'm pulling out these little tidbits, because I guarantee you right now, there's probably over 60 ad angles that I've just been kind of just alone counting in my head over what Joel could actually use to sell his thing. And this last piece right here, guys, is going to be just the butter on top of that bread, because it's the blue ocean, right? Because there's so many things out there that we could argue that can do exactly what Joel's software can do, but I'm going to argue that they cannot. And it is because of Joel's blue ocean. And he just kind of hinted at it in this interview just now, because, excuse me, I got overly excited. Joel has been doing this for decades. He's an expert marketer. He's been in the internet marketing space for a really long time. He has not only written hundreds of great ads, he's also produced hundreds of great ads for other people. He has strategized over design, over webinars, over every single piece that makes marketing work. And I would argue that, yes, there are a lot of amazing AI tools out there, but here's the thing that makes Joel's tool the blue ocean. And that's what we always want to do. So this concept, blue ocean, red ocean, for people who are listening and they're like, what the hell is she talking about? There's a book, Blue Ocean, Red Ocean, highly recommend it. But in short, it's basically like when it's a red ocean, there's a lot of sharks. There's a lot of blood in the water, lots of competitors. What we want to do is we want to swim away from that red ocean, and we want to find our own blue ocean where there's less competition. There's no sharks swimming around us. And what Joel has built inside this software is basically a second brain. And what I mean by that is basically Joel has baked into this software all of his marketing expertise, all of his design expertise. This man has tested hundreds, if not thousands of ads. He knows what works. He knows what doesn't work. He knows the framework. He knows all of these things. And so think about this. And I'm kind of selling it right now because I use the software myself. But Joel, I want you to like just kind of like expand on that a little bit, because I think people, who are going to see your ads will say, well, I've seen so-and-so software and I've seen so-and-so software. Really brag about yourself right now. Like, I want to know like every single thing about your marketing background that will literally blow all of your competition out of the water.
Well, the core thing that you have to realize is that ads perform when you understand how to communicate effectively with your prospects and with your leads. Okay. So this is where you have to have a blend of leveraging AI aligned with strategy and expertise. Because AI is great at getting you probably 80 to 90% of the way there, and then tailoring it to get it that last 10% without it going completely off the rails is where you really need to just harness the power. Now, am I going to be totally ignorant and think that AI won't eventually get to that final 10%? No, I think it probably will. But right now, we are overwhelmed with all of the different options that we have because everybody's launching different tools and software and platforms, and that's fine. Like I actually think it's a really, really great thing. However, what that's doing for the market right now is information paralysis. We have way too many options out there because you've got all of these $30 a month tools, $20 a month tools that do one very, very specific thing. Well, guess what? It needs to be paired up with another $20 a month tool and another $30 a month tool. And as entrepreneurs or agency owners, you know, where we still have a need is we have a need for fully integrated systems for specific verticals, right? That's why I went all in on building Facebook advertising systems for ads agencies because I know their problems acutely. And it also works for entrepreneurs as well. So I have those two markets, but right now my primary focus is on ads agencies because they don't have a fully integrated system that will help them scale their creative outputs across all of their clients. So one of the ways that I've tried to explain this is we're essentially a white label partner, right? Agencies will know what white label partners are. And this goes back to really my origin story. This is before I even created this platform. What helped me scale from, say, $30,000 a month with my agency to $220,000 a month was it was long before we even had AI at the capacity that we do now. But it was me being able to find a truly reputable and a white label partner that I could truly trust to manage all the back end. And this is a team that had their systems built together. They had everything dialed in. They were dealing with my clients. They were coming up with all the ads. Excuse me, they were not dealing with my clients, but they were coming up with all the ads, and I could deal with the clients, and I could go get more clients, and they could, like, there was no capacity limitations because they had their systems built. Most people do not get to that point. But what they really need, what most ads agencies should focus on is finding that quote unquote white label partner or system or solution that does allow for most of that back end management to take place so you can focus on client management and going up to get more clients. And that's the beauty of where we are now with fully integrated end-to-end systems, is that there should be no excuse for you not to have this system built for you, have something like this built for you, because it's one of the things that we have the ability now with AI and with tech and now with so many people who, like, for instance, I had this idea, like I've wanted to build this for many, many years, like something in this realm. But in order for me to get that built before AI is at the point now where we have basically software on demand and all of these integrated solutions on demand, it would have cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this solution. Well, now I've got a development team. They're leveraging the power of being able to quickly spin this stuff up and develop. So it's a lot less expensive for us to spin up these ideas and launch these solutions. And so it's a lot more affordable. So you're seeing a lot of these, a lot of these individual tools get launched, but where the real opportunity is fully integrated systems. Fully integrated systems where you don't have to log into Ads Manager if you don't want. You can publish campaigns straight from Ads Manager, and you can strip out all the fluff. So it takes you literally 5 seconds to publish an ad to Ads Manager without needing to go through all those buttons that it just pre-selects for you. Like, that's going to save you hours a month just doing that. You can now have 100 or 300 different ads that are ready to deploy, iterations that your creative team probably would have taken weeks to produce for you. You never even have to send them any directives. You never have to send them, hey, I need some ad concepts over here. Our system will create that for you. So where we are at today is entrepreneurs and agency owners need to find fully integrated end-to-end solutions. If they really want to leg up and they really want to optimize their systems, because here's the other thing too, your clients are going to expect faster results because they know AI is there. So they are expecting you to use tools that help produce better results. And if you aren't, and if it is taking you 2 weeks to just send them a new ad for review, like, they're going to drop you like a bad habit. They absolutely will, because your challenge now is going to be, how are you going to integrate AI? How are you going to be able to produce faster, better results, more affordable, while still, maintaining your profit margins and not pulling your hair out of your head. So I went on a little bit of a tangent there, but that's where we are here today.
Well, that's what I always hope that my clients do, is go off on a tangent, because that's typically where all of the best ad copy is going to come from. And so what I'm going to do, like my next step is I am literally going to rip this interview that I just did with Joel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into 4 different buckets, right? Because there's different, like everyone knows that there's like different sophistication levels. And the way that I like to look at it is like the 4A lenses, right? People consume content, and a lot of people do a lot of actionable content like how to, right? Which is great for top of funnel solving problems. And that's why whenever I started interviewing Joel, I was asking him the problems that he was solving so that we can create that how to content, right? Then I wanted to go deeper because some agency owners want to look at the numbers. And so that's why we went into the analytical. Now, while Joel was actually telling me this, I was also pulling different stories for the aspirational content.
Mm.
Then we capped it off with, in my opinion, the most sophisticated level of content, which is the anthropological. And so, like, if we take everything that Joel just said about agency owners, an anthropological angle is something that, like, why is this not working? Like, most people who are sophisticated, they don't need to know how something works. They know that it's something internal that's going on. And so a great anthropological angle, based upon what Joel just told me, is that his software is going to take the emotional out of running ads. Because Joel, how
Mm.
many times have you been handed copy, or you've been handed a design element, and your emotion was tied to it, and you might have made the decision to not run it at all just because you had so much emotion? And what I love about what your software does is it actually takes the emotion out of it, because it's like, let's just do it, let's just test, because we're not spending so much time on each design element, each copy element. So that's what I'm going to do as soon as I get, all of this interview stuff, is I'm literally going to create 4 different levels of content, all using that same copy that Joel just gave us throughout this entire thing, just telling it through 4 different lenses. And by the time that we're done with it, Joel will have 200, 300 different angles that we could actually test.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love this. I love how you asked those questions. And it was super simple too, but it just got me to really think. One of the other ideas that is really true, and this is where I've had a hard time explaining this. Agency owners mostly don't like the idea of like firing your team, right? It's like, oh, use this AI tool to fire your teams. Like they have an emotional tie to their team members. And while we get buried in those headlines of like, oh, look at all these layoffs and whatnot, it's definitely not anything that I have found success leading with. And I don't really want to lead with that. The truth of the matter is to kind of expand on what I was talking about earlier, is that the expectations from the clients are going to go up dramatically. So for instance, this might be a way to speak to my agency clients. If you have one account manager that is able to manage, say, 5 accounts or 10 accounts, whatever it is, they need to be able to manage 50. And if they can't, you've got a problem, because your clients are going to expect faster results. They know that AI can come up with images. You don't hide it like it's not anything that we are supposed to be hiding. Like, you have to say, yes, we use AI. Yes, they still want your human touch on it, but they know that you can spin up images at the push of a button. They know AI can create videos. They know all of these other things. So if you're taking 2 weeks to get back to them with new iterations, I promise you they are going to find another agency very, very fast, and probably for cheaper. So if you are stuck with one account manager that can't manage, they can only manage 10 clients because they're in the process, like they are in the weeds of kind of managing that entire workflow and it takes forever, you have to fix that. Otherwise, you won't have clients sticking around very long. So I don't really know exactly how to explain that, but it's a very, very real thing. because they want to scale without hiring more team members. They want to empower their existing team members with the right tools and the right systems. And they want to be able to scale without needing to hire more team members. If they can increase their efficiency and they can increase their capacity at the same team size, that's a huge win for them. That's a huge win for them.
And I think that is a very strong message, because there are so many people that are thinking backwards. They're like, how could I, and so many people are pushing it. Like every single day you see content, like, here's how you can fire your whole team. And I think that that's actually a very pattern interrupt type statement of everything that you just talked about. While everyone is telling you to fire your team, you're talking about like increasing the amount of volume that one person can do. So instead of, getting rid of people to do the same amount of work, you're saying keep your people and you get like 100x the results. And so that's actually a more efficient way to scale than by taking away things. And so I like that angle a lot. So let's actually break that down.
Okay.
Is there a certain scenario that, as we're talking about this, and we don't have to name anyone specifically or anything like that, but can you tell me about a scenario where you maybe had a conversation with that business owner, someone asking you, well, should I get rid of my team or should I do this? And kind of walk me through how that conversation actually went.
Well, there are two scenarios that I can give examples for, and these are based on recent conversations that I've had with agency owners. One is I had an agency owner that we're working with. They had 70 accounts that they were managing, 70 client accounts. Now, they were really struggling because they were outsourcing all of their creative development to the Philippines, like just this large team of people who were managing their creative production. This agency owner was spending so much time just coaching them and training them. It's like, hey, these are good, these are bad, we need this. And that's not an effective use of his time. And they couldn't scale because there's just so much babysitting that has to happen with, outsourcing their creative production to a team like that. So he was looking for a system that could, replace them specifically. Now, those aren't, that was an outsourced house. So it's a little bit different than, replacing internal team members. So he didn't want to replace internal team members. He was basically just replacing their outsourced design team. And so that's what he was looking for. Now, another example was an agency owner who was working with, I can't remember exactly how many clients that they had, but they had an account manager that they had a very good account. And this account manager was spending 20 to 25 hours a week just managing one account. And they were very inefficient. And so they were stuck in this kind of balancing act of, they kind of knew they needed to get rid of this person because they were underperforming, but the client loved dealing with that one person. So they kind of stuck around. And so they were trying to increase that person's efficiency and empower them and give them more tools and more resources and more systems so they could manage more client accounts. So I'm not entirely sure what they're going to end up doing with that one client account manager, but it was more so about empowerment. It's like the business owner, the agency owner knew that they could get more output, but they just didn't have the right system. They didn't have the right ability. They didn't have the right tools to make that work. And it was taking weeks for this account manager to work with the rest of the team and come up with new creative direction and new ads to review. And, this is part of what I was talking about earlier, that speed, that time from when they get the data in of like, this campaign's either working or it's not, and knowing that they need to come up with new angles. It was at least 2 weeks before they had anything even present to the client. And that's just, that's not going to fly in the age of AI anymore.
It's so true. And I really loved what you said, last week, in our interview, where you were like, it's no longer the lead to say that my business uses AI. Like now it's just something that is understood. And so can we kind of shift the conversation and go a little bit deeper on that? Because I think that would make some really incredible ad angles, because I always tell my clients, like, if you're not figuring out a way to deliver results faster, someone with less expertise than you is actually going to come in and steal your leads, because it's just, when people hear faster, they often think, oh, better. And so kind of let's actually kind of have that conversation for a little bit.
Yeah. So specifically, you want to talk about incorporating AI into your business?
Yeah, how it's kind of like the no duh thing, right? Like
Yeah.
how important is it for agencies to start incorporating not only AI tools, but the right tools and just kind of like lay out, scenario A is the agency that's kind of like duct taping its tools together. Meanwhile, agency B has this one nice efficient system.
Yeah. If you look at the two scenarios, almost everybody is trying to use AI. They really are, because they're bombarded with all these different options. And that is the big problem that the agency owners are struggling with right now, is they are just being pulled, and everybody actually is struggling with this, but we're being pulled in so many different directions because Anthropic just launched a new model yesterday. I mean, I'm being very generic here, but it's like Anthropic just launched a new model yesterday, and OpenAI saw that they launched a new model, so they launched a new model the day after, and both models are now 200% faster than just the previous model. And this is happening on a week-to-week basis, if not day-to-day basis. And so we see all of these new capabilities that these LLMs are presenting us. Now we can go code and build our own apps. We've got a new image generation model out here that's 10 times better than Google Nano Banana. And so we start to get confused. We start to get overwhelmed with all of the options. We don't know how to apply it to our system. The fact of the matter is that you really shouldn't be tinkering with any individual tool. You should be thinking in a systematic approach of how can I apply some or all of these tools into one very specific use case for a very specific system. For instance, meta ads. Okay. How can I work with a provider, or how can I incorporate a full end-to-end system that solves all of the bottlenecks that are in my business that will help me launch more ads or help me launch more ads for my clients? Well, then you have to outline what are all of those time sucks. And a lot of people don't even realize how much of a time suck logging into Ads Manager and uploading your campaigns directly there actually is. And it's a huge bottleneck, right? So, okay, cool. Is there a way that you can solve that? Then how do I create images and videos at scale with fresh new ideas, fresh new angles that are acceptable, that are compelling, and that will actually produce results? We were talking about this on one of our previous podcasts, but I think you were talking about Mike Buontempo was saying that only 18% of the tests that he runs actually become winners. So if you enter it with that mindset, well, you need to produce 5 times more variations at least to test, just to try and find some of those winners. So now take that output of what you thought you needed to do and multiply that by 5 just for testing, and try and sketch out how much time that is actually taking you to produce that. And if you don't have a fully cohesive system that allows you to do that at scale, multiply that across any number of clients you have, 10, 15, 20, 30 clients, then you are going to be choked down. You are going to be totally bottlenecked and overwhelmed, and you haven't actually solved the key problem. Maybe you're using one AI tool for image generations and you really like that, but guess what? You still got to download them, upload them, pair it together with your copy, figure out your split testing criteria, the whole 9 yards. You have to think in terms of fully integrated end-to-end systems, from creative concept design to variations produced that are ready to deploy without you needing to log into Ads Manager, and being able to review those in less than 15 minutes a week. And if you can find that system, then you're making a good use of AI tools, and you're making a good use of a complete AI system. But if you're still trying to figure out how to tie things together one by one, then you haven't really figured out a solution. You might have found one part that gives you, the ability to create great images, but if it's not fully integrated with the rest of that workflow, then, it's only minimally effective for you.
So if I were to take this interview, right, and create all of these different ad angles, because like this is something that, that I've been doing, with my own clients, and I know that there's a shortcut to utilize your software in order to do that. What would that process actually look like? Like for someone who, helps people launch ads, like what would that look like from start to finish for me?
So how would you be able to take this interview and transform it into ad copy or
Mhm.
into
Yeah,
yeah,
like basically using your software as that shortcut.
yeah. So what you would need to do is you would need to take this interview and this is actually a really good feature to build in because we don't have it currently. I don't know how many people actually do this, like where they have an interview and want to transform it into ads. Maybe they do. Maybe they want to turn podcasts into ads. And I think it's a really, really good idea. So essentially, what they would do is they would take this interview, upload it to the platform, and say, "Hey, I want to extract any number of ad angles from this. Can you repurpose this and give me X number of 30-second ad clips?" So that would be a killer feature, which we don't currently have. So yeah, I don't know exactly how we would build that, but it's absolutely possible. But to take it the next step, let's say that, you know, you have this interview. All you would need to do is upload it into whatever LLM software that you use. Claude is my favorite. I actually don't even recommend OpenAI anymore just because I think that they are um, I don't like what they're doing. They basically said that they're going to take all your information and sell it to the government, which is not cool. So who knows? Maybe Anthropic will do that too. But I would upload this transcript to Claude, and I would say extract 5 to 10, potential ad hook angles for me, and and then I would take that and upload it into the software, and then instantly we'd have the ability to spin up unlimited ad variations with all those different hooks. So yeah, I don't know if that's a direct answer, but I wasn't sure if you
That
were
is actually what I was looking for, but can you kind of expand? Because I think there are other people who, might find that valuable because like what my process looks like is I download all of this stuff and then I have like my own kind of like proprietary, actionable, analytical, aspirational, anthropological. And so I have like all of the angles and it outputs it in my own proprietary methodology into a Google Doc.
yeah,
So how could I best utilize that and put it into the software so that it could actually
gotcha.
pull some of that stuff?
All right, so here's what you want to do because as personal brands or any brand, the main thing that you want to look for is you want to look for the unique, authoritative talking points that you have versus everybody else in your audience. So if you have a podcast or some sort of interview and you ramble like I have been doing, you want to take that transcript and send it to Claude and say, "Hey, here's a recent podcast interview recording that I did. What I need you to do is to extract 5 or 10 brand pillars, unique brand insights that are truly unique to me that I can then take and excuse me, and create new ad angles for." So what you really want to do is take that piece of content and tell your AI model, extract the unique authoritative hooks, extract unique brand pillars that are unique to me, my unique perspective as it relates to what I believe about this product and service, and highlight them for me, right? And give me, and summarize my story, summarize my perspectives, so then we can use those as potential ad angles. And then I would take that and throw it into our platform because once we have those brand pillars, we can come up with all sorts of different ways to tell that story because that's where you get the most effective point is once you extract your key thought pillars, thought leadership pillars, we can use AI to explain that in any number of unlimited variations. Like what we say has to be extracted from the interview. How we say it, we can use AI to spin up any number of different ways to tell that story and to supplement that information. And so that's how I always tell people to use AI. Extract this interview, extract key brand pillars, thought leadership pillars from this interview that are unique to me, and then give me a bunch of different ways for how I can say that.
That's awesome. That's exactly what I'm going to do because like what you have given me during this interview is freaking gold.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so many things that is unique to everything that you said that would make really really great ad angles that'll really stand out because I think you are 100% correct. And I was having a conversation with a student who actually sells AI. Like a lot of her branding is around this AI. And I was having the conversation with her this morning, and she's not leaning in on her marketing background when she's selling this AI stuff. And I was like, your software just seems, not her software, her proprietary methodology behind AI. I was like, it sounds like everyone else because you're not leaning into your 20 plus experience in marketing.
100%. 100%. That was fun. Anything else?
No, I can't wait to get my hands on the transcript so I can output you some stuff.
Yeah. I really hope people are understanding what goes into, like, no matter how good AI gets, right? Until AI can sit down and interview us like we are right now, and I think it probably can already. But here's what I truly believe. I truly believe that no matter what happens with AI, humans are going to want to deal with humans. So we're going to hit some sort of inflection point where, and I've already seen this, it's, whenever someone books a call onto my calendar, I send them a follow-up text message saying, hey, this is Joel, not an AI, right? Just want to confirm you got this text message. I have a few follow-up questions based on your application. People want to deal with humans. And so they are going to be accepting of things that are produced by AI as long as it has the oversight of different human interaction, particularly for higher ticket services, right? Because there's a trust factor and there's also an ownership factor. I can't just yell, if I'm paying someone 5 grand, 10 grand, 50 grand, there's a reason for that. It's got a high value in my opinion. If I'm helping them launch their own personal brand, if I'm helping them launch their own whatever course, book, coaching program, could they, chat with AI and start moving forward? Of course they can. But there's the confidence factor that they definitely don't have confidence in themselves to be able to launch it effectively or launch it the right way. So they still want to talk to a human. They still want to deal with a human. They still want to give that ownership to somebody else, which is what you do when you pay someone a bunch of money. And so there's going to be this weird inflection point where everyone's going to expect that you have AI on your team. They're going to expect more out of you, more from your service. And that's where we're heading. I think it's exciting. I think it's also very nervous there's rightfully so. We should be a little bit fearful of what AI can do, but the bottom line is if you're not incorporating it, you're not utilizing it, you're not actually baking into full end-to-end systems, then you're going to be left behind. You really will be left behind. And so anyway, it's my end rant from there.
No, AI is like amazing. Like I was just telling my wife a while ago, I was like, because I was doing a little, so for like all of my clients, I do these like playbooks for them so that everyone had like, I was never able to be as hands-on with my clients as I am now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like I've just like, and my clients know, like I am totally upfront about that. 95% of my one-on-one consulting is done by like AI, and my students don't care because they're getting more out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually get more hands-on help. But I was like, I looked at my wife, I was like, man, I was like, look at this. I was like, look how beautiful this is. I was like, where I don't even remember life before AI, right? Like when I had to handwrite copy and handwrite all of this, and now I can just, chat back and forth with, I call her Claudette. I'm like, I can chat back and forth with Claudette and just like have her change a couple of the hooks and just tell her, hey, this is what I want to do. It's kind of she's just like my personal copywriting assistant, and she's just amazing. Like I'm talking about her like she's a person, but it's just, it's just amazing at how far we've come with AI. And we still haven't even, like, people think that that it's like super saturated, and we still have not even there's such a small percentage of people who are actually using AI in the right way. And I'm just grateful for you for, building a software that's going to make launching the ads even faster, because I mean, AI has definitely sped up the process, but the fact that I can just every single Monday, because Monday we refresh our creatives. That's what we do. And it's like, you could do it at the push of a button. It's just like,
Yep.
I'm
excited about it. I really am. What we've built is truly incredible. We're coming out with version 2 of the platform, I think next week, which is going to simplify the interface. And I want people to understand, like, everything, when I work with agencies, it's all custom built for them. So they get the foundation of our platform for sure, but we custom build, because everything has to come down to the prompts. Everything comes down to the prompts.
Mhm.
How you generate the images, how you generate the copy. It's all down to what's the prompt system. Like I don't make any. I tell everyone that of course we're using AI, but we're tying in like 17 different AI services to get you what you are looking for right here. But all of our work that we do with our agencies is custom built for them. So, we sit down, we do a brand extraction interview just like I do with all my, $40,000 agency clients. And we get them version 1 of their ads, like because we're prompting everything and have to we manually fine tune everything for them before we even hand them off to the system. And so that's the other thing too, is that yes, you can use AI, but you should still have personalization and customization for every single client. We went the mass market SaaS route, and that's a red ocean. That's a red ocean. You're like $49 a month, $97 a month. It's like, man, people jump in and out for 1 month and they're gone. And it's like, well, we need a differentiator. And so everything we build is custom for every single one of our clients. And that's where I think the shift from like SaaS to productized services is really moving.
Well, you guys did a really great job. One of the things that I was really impressed with is the quality of the images. Like, because I mean, I'm a regular user of, I still use ChatGPT for a lot of images. I use, Nano Banano for a lot of my images, and I will say your images just look better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes too to make that happen. And so, but people don't know that. Users don't really understand that. It's like, of course, there's stuff that we do behind the scenes to make those things improved and higher quality. But it's fun. It's a wild game that we're in right now. It's a wild world, and I'm enjoying it. But Laurel, I appreciate it. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for doing the interview. It helps me get more content and more ideas out there and having this back and forth. And I hope that you guys who are watching this interview get value out of it too, because like these are the exercises you have to go through. And so I appreciate all of you. If you haven't, go follow Laurel. If you haven't liked this video, like and subscribe, do the whole thing that you have to do when I publish a YouTube video. But I'm sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. I don't know, I've got like some nasty thing building up in my throat. So I apologize for all the coughing. But anyway, appreciate you, Laurel. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next week.